And good afternoon, Facebook. As you can see today, it's myself and Tina. Good afternoon, Tina.
Hello, Stephen. Hello, Hani.
And good afternoon, Arnie. Nice to see you here. Now, if you are, and I'm borrowing somebody's words here, I can't remember who said them. If you are a WordPress blogger and a live video creator, you are in the right place today, because Tina and I have Hani Mourra with us to talk about Simple Social WordPress, or Simple Social Press. So, the first question is, how did Simple Social Press come about? How did you actually decide to create it? What's the sort of process behind creating it?
That's a great question. So the history of it, I'll give you like a 1-minute history. I'm a big video guy, so my first tool that I ever created was taking your YouTube videos and publishing them to your WordPress site automatically. And I did it for myself because I was a video blogger doing a lot of videos. So that evolved into a podcasting plugin called Simple Podcast Press. And then when Blab was available, I thought, hey, let's apply the same principles of taking your Blab content, putting it on your website. And then when Blab went away and Facebook Live came, then just kind of evolved into a new plugin called Simple Social Press. And the whole idea, like you said, is to take that content, you take your live stream and automatically create a blog post, automatically embed the video, and then automatically add all the comments as well, which is really a big bonus.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things is that it not only does it add the comments that are going on while you're live, but once you're no longer live and people continue to comment on the replay, it adds those comments as well.
Yeah, and they're native, or I like to use the word native, but they're regular WordPress comments. So from a search engine's perspective, it looks like you have a blog post with all these comments on it, which is really powerful for kind of social proof and also a little bit of SEO as well.
Right. Yeah, social proof is kind of one of those buzzwords, and not everyone understands what that means. But it really is exactly what it sounds like. It's just proof that in the social realm of things, in the digital world, that people are fans of yours. They're watching you, they're commenting and interacting with you, and they're engaged in your content. And that's one of the things that, Google, the SEO god, is looking for, is an engaged page for content, that people who are paying attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the video as well is a nice bonus, because video usually means longer on-page time. So someone's visiting your site and they're staying there longer than necessarily reading a blog post. So it's a combination of the video and the combination of the comments. And of course, the automation, the fact that you don't have to do it yourself. And anybody, all this can be done manually. With the exception of the comments, you can do this manually. You can copy the embed code from Facebook and make a blog post and do all that. But if in the interest of saving time, it's like Simple Social Press is a huge time saver.
So how does the automation work? Does everything that you post live on Facebook automatically get pulled into your blog?
You can set it up any way you like. So you can decide, first of all, if you want Facebook Live videos or you want just regular Facebook videos. If you upload native videos to Facebook, you can add those as well. And then you can decide based on hashtags. So if you have a certain hashtag in the title or description of your Facebook Live, you can set it up so that you can have the plugin ignore that hashtag and import everything else. Or you can set it up the other way around, where you can say only import anything with this hashtag in it and ignore everything else. So depending on your style, your show, if you have different types of shows with different, you come up with your own hashtags, you may want to configure it different ways. Or if you want, you can do by date. You can say anything after this date, only import everything on and after this date. So it is customizable. And the kind of nice thing is you don't have to have a dedicated site, like a dedicated blog just for your Facebook Lives. This can be kind of incorporated into your blog. If you're blogging regularly or want to blog regularly, you can incorporate it as a regular blog post. But you do have the option of setting categories. So you can organize your blog, say, my live, the Facebook Lives can go under the one category. You can have a separate menu for that. And you can have another one for maybe a different topic. So the plugin lets you set up which category to create the blog post under as well.
And can you do more than one? So if I have a blog that has, let's say, a weather category and a politics category, so I'm thinking in terms of like a news blog or something. And, I put the weather and I put the news and I put politics all on my same Facebook page, but I want them to be sorted into those categories so they go to those pages. So you can set up multiple.
Yeah, that was actually a request by somebody some time back. And basically the idea is this: you can set a hashtag. You say this hashtag, if I have this hashtag, then assign it to this category. If I have hashtag weather, assign it to my weather category. So you can use hashtags to automatically assign to different categories. So, yeah, that's a pretty new feature actually.
That's a really cool. I run a hyperlocal news agency, and so that's that was the biggest site that I have with the most different things on it. So I think that's awesome for people who are not so narrow of a focus. If you have a really really specific niche, then it's easier. But if you kind of cover a broad spectrum of things, then it gets a little trickier.
Yeah, that's true. And you don't want you want it to be all under the blog section, but like you said, you want it organized so people can find, whether it's under Facebook Live category or under the topic itself, like weather or politics. It's totally up to you. You can decide how you want to set it up.
And hashtagging is really helpful anyway. So if you're using the hashtag for the purpose of setting up the Simple Social Press, you're also like getting in the habit of using hashtags, which people really do still use hashtags to search. I use hashtags to search on Facebook and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll make your content easier to find for the people who are used to searching that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of helps you organize things. And if you're like, there's popular hashtags. I mean, I'm sure there's tools out there that can see what's kind of trending and what's popular hashtag. You can kind of piggyback off of that sometimes. I don't know how well that really works, but it's just something to keep in mind.
No.
And that's hard to keep up with. It changes too often.
True.
One of the things is that if you're broadcasting live on Facebook, only people on Facebook can see your videos. Now, being able to transfer them to WordPress blog means that not only can the outside world see it without signing in, but Google sees it too.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two real benefits to actually doing this on there.
Yeah. And like, as to follow up what you said, you can also, if you have a page or a group, or if you have, you can do it on your personal profile. You can choose which ones you want to import. So it's not only based on the hashtags, it's also based on, which page you have. Just one word of caution though, it's not a limitation of the plugin, it's a limitation of Facebook. And I struggled with this, but in my head, it makes sense now. Basically, if you have a private group, you cannot, even if you do it manually, you cannot embed a video outside of WordPress. And I was, kind of wishing you could find a workaround, but it makes sense. A private group is meant to be visible only in that group. So they don't want that video embedded. So if you have a public group, there's no problems. But if you have a private group, you can't watch the video outside of Facebook. Just kind of a heads up on that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have people still kind of struggle a little bit with the privacy settings for Facebook. Stephen, were you going to say something?
No, sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you. Just remiss of me. I just posted the link, and I was just pointing out that if people could, and I posted. Never mind. Carry on, Tina. I'll be back in a minute. Carry on.
Okay. I was going to say that, my husband and I both been on Facebook. I've been on a little bit longer than him, but pretty much since it came around. And, they change things a lot often. And that your typical users who are just there to kind of peruse and connect with family and those kind of things don't pay attention to the changes like we do, like the content creators do.
Yeah.
And, my husband the other day, he's like, I tagged you in something, and I'm like, I didn't get a notification. And it was because he was tagging me on a post on under somebody who I'm not friends with, and they had it set to friends only. So it didn't show me that post. And, you know, the same thing is true with groups. If you have the group set to private or secret, you know, people can find your group. You can still search. If they're searching for golf and you have a golfing group, your group will show up, and even your members will show up there, but the content is not visible. And so, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that it will not show up if you try to share it out to anywhere, because it's intended for that group.
Exactly.
It's like exclusive content. That's what groups are great for. You know, so just you have a private group.
Yeah, I use it for for customers and like for people who are users of the product, and it's a good way to kind of engage with your customers or your users, and sometimes it's not some people have I don't like to use it for support issues, but sometimes issues come up and you want to resolve them, but it's nice to have that in a private space, not out in the public world. Every tool, every software has issues, and we're all, even other group members are there to support it. But yeah, you're right. It's content that's meant exclusive for people in the group. Maybe a sneak peek of what's coming out that only people who are members or who are users will get kind of first dibs on it. So yeah, it makes sense that you can't embed a video from a private group onto WordPress. Initially I was trying to kind of find a way around it, and I was emailing the Facebook support. I'm like, is this not supported? And then then I think I thought about it some more. I said, it makes total sense.
Well, and we should say if you get on your private group and you just, I don't know, something inspires you and you end up doing this amazing live video that you think the rest of the world needs to see, you can always download it and embed it. Now, unfortunately, you don't get the benefit of having the comments that have occurred there on it, but you can still repurpose that piece of content.
Yeah, exactly. You can always download it and even upload it as a regular video on Facebook or on YouTube, and then you can embed that. Yeah, it's not a complete loss. Like, you can have access to that content. It's your content. It's your group's your content.
Welcome back, Stephen.
Thank you. I've done my sharing now. I'm back. Yeah, so there is a private Facebook group for Simple Social Press. How can people join that? We'll put the link in afterwards.
It's available to anybody who's using the software. So if you go to Simple Social Press and you download the plugin and you decide it's a good investment for your live streaming content creation, then you get an invite through the email when you sign up for the
product. Right.
Yeah.
It's a private group.
It's a private group, yeah, for anybody who's a user of the software. And we talk a little bit about, people ask questions about what tools and stuff. And we do some kind of support in there. I don't like to do a lot of support in there. Like, we have a dedicated support team and an email address for that. But things come up. People have issues and say, oh, hey, by the way, I've experienced it. I solved it this way. So other members are helping each other as well. And I'm in there as well a lot.
What's good when your community can resolve issues for you, and you don't have to use your tech team or your support team for that. And I know that happens. I've seen it in the Repurposing group and in Belive group. This is kind of taking us a little bit off topic, but since we are talking live, if you're not using it, are you seeing it as a viable option of using Live for support?
I just recently somebody gave me the idea to use, not really for support, more for like a Q&A session. So somebody said, hey, why don't you start a Q&A session, a weekly show just to your customers inside the group, and pick a topic or a new feature or existing feature and just spend 10-15 minutes talking about it, and then open up for Q&A and make that a weekly thing. Just because no one likes to read the manual, and sometimes there's a lot of settings that you may not see or know about a product. So I'm going to start doing that, not this week, but the next week in the Repurposing group, and then also to the Simple Social Press. If it goes well with Repurposing, I'll do it with the other products as well. I just dedicate half an hour, and in the first 10 minutes, show something new, and then use it as an opportunity for customers to ask their questions, because sometimes it's hard to communicate via email. Sometimes you're just curious about something. So bring people on and ask the question, or ask the question in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. So it's live. I do videos and upload them, but doing it live is it's like a whole different engagement level. So that's the thing about live. It's like it's live. You ask me the question, I show you how it works, and stuff like that. So live it's actually a perfect use of using live inside of in a private Facebook group to educate your customers or users.
Well,
Absolutely. Go ahead, Stephen. I just was saying absolutely.
It is a perfect use of live because you get the interaction. People get to know that you're actually listening to them, and that's very important when you're doing a software product. Mm-hmm. Is that people first of all know what's going to happen, two, know that you want to know about any problems people are having and discuss them, and three, that you are listening, and you can do all that through a 30-minute show inside the group.
Yeah, it was a great suggestion by somebody. A friend of mine is also in the group, and he said, "Hey, why don't you try this?" And I said, "Actually, a brilliant idea. It's much better than making a little video."
The first thing I tell my social media clients when they say, "Well, how can I use live?" A Q&A is like a really easy kind of get your feet wet thing, because they know their product better than anyone else. So this is a simple kind of non-threatening thing for them to do. And another thing that's really great, I think, about it is it provides a level of transparency that you just wouldn't get through doing, kind of a canned Q&A video.
Yeah.
And then also you're building those relationships, the real relationships and connections that you also don't get through videos that are produced. So I think it's going to do really well. So I fully expect it'll be going over to Simple Social within a couple of weeks.
I think so too. I think, dedicate the time. I mean, it's going to take me, to be honest, like my concern was, okay, I want to create the content. How much time is it going to take me? But in reality, doing a video and separately and editing it and trying to think up of topics, and that's going to actually take longer. And if I do it live, I give the people, like the users, their answers directly because they get to ask them live. But also, is the edit. The thing I like about live, I think I mentioned it a few times before, is the fact that you don't have to edit. Like, I love editing videos, but it takes time, right? Even if you have templates and intros, it just takes time. And I'm very picky about like aligning the music with this, and you just go live. You don't have to worry about editing. You answering the questions directly, and you have a piece of content that I can use, inside an FAQ or inside. I can always take that content and put it into my, members area if I wanted to, or training area later on if I build a training area. So you can repurpose that content after the fact somewhere else. But also, people mentioned they love the idea because if I miss it live, I just come back to the group and the video's there and I can watch the replay.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm sorry, Stephen, I was going to say, you can plan all day and plan out a list of questions that you want to go up with the Q&A. But the truth is, you don't know what people are going to ask you. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're like Stephen and I are, we're pretty learned when it comes to this Belive thing. And so we will actually skip over things that we just don't think about it when we do the process. And people say, well, how did you do that? And we're like, well, duh, we didn't think about that. So I think, we all learn differently, and some things are more intuitive to us than others. For me, I'll just keep using Belive as an example. In Belive, whenever they add the option to include a frame and your logo, to me, it was intuitive, and I saw immediately where they had placed that. Well, other people just skipped right over it. They didn't see it at all. So I think, opening the questions up, you may be surprised by some of the questions that you get that you just didn't think was something that people were struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it all the time. Because especially when you're creating software, it's like, oh, the option's right there, but it's obvious to me, obviously, because I'm the one that thought of putting it there, but maybe it's not intuitive. So definitely hearing the people's feedback, the users' feedback, hearing good users' questions is going to not only help me make the software better, but it's also going to help people, help others get the questions answered, right? Without having to answer them.
Yeah, indeed. And hello, Andre. Nice to see you. Yes. And Robert is waiting to join us, Robert Myers. So I'm going to nip down in a moment and swap out. But I can give you an instance of we take our knowledge for granted, but people can miss the simplest things. And this is a true story, which I tell against myself. I'm trying out a new piece of software, a new piece of broadcasting software that goes to YouTube. It's called Lightstream. And what I want to do is to have 4 people on screen going to YouTube. which very few people do. And I did a couple of practices, one with Leland and one with Corinda. And my audio is out of sync. When I use the built-in camera, there's no problem. When I use the mic from that, no problem. When I used the lapel mic, it was out of sync. Okay. And I couldn't understand it. So I wrote to the CEO and he said, well, we'll take it under advisement, but today is July 4th. Please understand that we won't get back to you until the 5th, which was fair. I accept that. And then testing this afternoon, I discovered that I'd missed actually tying the microphone and camera together, which is an extra step, which how I missed it, I will never know. But the fact that, no matter how much you think you know, there's always something that you've got to learn. And live video, where you can bring people on screen and show them and demonstrate it, is perfect for that. So I'm going to take a break for a moment, and we'll bring in Robert. So over to you. I'm set over to you. Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Oh, ding, ding. Now I should be up. Yes.
Okay, we have a white screen.
No.
Robert, we cannot see or hear you if you are
That's
there.
interesting.
Stephen, if you can hear us, we can't see or hear Robert.
This is most peculiar.
Yeah.
This is a feature because Robert was white as you saw him, yeah? But on the live broadcast, his picture was there. Robert, can you just refresh and come back in? And I promise you, I'll bring you straight back in after that.
That's interesting. Stephen, if you want, when we have a guest, if you want to drop me out and leave you in, if that's the easier thing to do, then that's fine too.
We'll take it in turns. So 3, 2, 1.
Am I up now?
Now, there we go.
Is my camera showing now?
You're here now, Robert.
That was so odd. I'd never seen that happen before. I had the ding, 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 and then it went to a white screen in place where I should have been on. So anyway, good morning.
Good to see you.
I like what Stephen just said. There's constant learning in this thing. It seems like every time I turn around, there's something else to learn.
Yes.
It's a constant thing. So
it's especially difficult for people like Robert who have normal, regular jobs and don't get to actually spend 95% of their time online figuring out what's changed today.
Yeah. And the user, like, one person doesn't know it all. So like having a group, having community, asking people and people that, I tried this, I liked it. I didn't try this. Let me try that. So it's great to have a community of people who are similar interests, who are the goal is to create content and get it out there in the simplest way. And so if you can leverage other people in a group community, it's always great to learn from them.
So Robert, I know that you are a user of Hani's product, the Repurpose.io.
Yes.
Are you using Simple Social Press yet?
No, not yet. I plan to.
And then we've got like a whole list. Robert and I collaborate on a couple of things, and we've got just the list that keeps getting longer of products and services that we need to implement or keep in mind for our clients to implement. So it just keeps growing.
Yeah, there's so much out there. But to me, I love WordPress. I'm a WordPress guy. I love it. I'm kind of happy that Repurpose is kind of outside of WordPress. It serves a different purpose. So if you have a WordPress blog, then the plugins plus Repurpose together are like a very powerful combination. You can send content across platforms and send content to your own platform.
Yes.
But for those who don't have WordPress, I used to get especially in the podcasting world, people are asking, hey, does your plugin support Squarespace or Wix? Or I said, I wish I could make the plugin, compatible with all these platforms, but it's not possible. I wanted to focus on WordPress. But then when the Repurpose came out, I feel like I can help bigger audience because you're not relying on WordPress for that part of it.
And I haven't looked at the statistics in a couple of years, but I would imagine that this has not changed, that WordPress is the most popular platform for websites today.
Yeah, I haven't looked in a while, but I would say I would agree.
Last thing I saw, I think, said 72%.
Of businesses, that's probably true. Almost every business I've ever worked with.
I'm not sure where I saw that. It was just an anecdotal thing that I was reading, and I saw it. Oops. My wife is calling me because my breakfast is ready. So.
Well, Stephen, so there he goes.
Okay. If you want to come back, Robert, after the phone call, just put your hand in the air, wave your hand, and I'll bring you straight back. Okay.
We started chatting.
Ready to come back?
Huh?
I think is Robert ready to? You ready to come back? I think he's ready to come back. Yeah. Okay.
I was going to see if you had a specific question before we went to breakfast.
Oh no! Am I back on?
You're on, yeah.
Stephen, I've got to go have breakfast. I think he misunderstood.
Yeah, Robert, do you have a specific question about Simple Social Press or repurposing that you wanted to ask before you go have breakfast?
No, I don't. Okay. I just wanted to encourage Hani to keep up the splendid work. You're doing great stuff for lots of people. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it, Robert. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Enjoy your breakfast.
Have a good one.
That's the problem of being on the West Coast. It's still breakfast time.
Yeah, he is. He's in California, so.
Right. And just whilst I was below, I was checking things. WordPress have got 59.2% of the market, and second are Joomla with 7%.
Yeah.
So, and Drupal.
I actually love Joomla. Like, that's the platform that I grew into from starting out many years ago with WYSIWYG stuff back in the, in the ancient times, and moved into Drupal and then to Joomla. And so I've used Joomla for, 12, 15 years, and had to absolutely kicking and screaming drag myself over to WordPress because that's where all my clients wanted to be. So you got to go where the market takes you.
Yeah. And WordPress is one of those things. It's great. Like it's a little bit of a learning curve. But once you get the hang of it, you start seeing how things work. I really appreciate it. Like I think it is easy. I tell people it's easy, but the first time you see it, it's not easy. It's not obvious, and you have to learn how a post works, how a page is different than a post, and categories, menu, whatever. But once you figure it out, the learning curve is not huge, but once you figure it out, it's easy to maintain and add content. That's what I like. And then the plugins, of course, just a whole community of plugins, free plugins, paid plugins. There's so many tools that will do a lot of things for you.
That was one of the things I loved about Joomla was it was open source and had such a huge community building for it. And most of those people have migrated over to WordPress and continue to build plugins and those sorts of things. If you have experience with a content management system, whether that's Joomla or even Wix to some extent, or any of those kinds of things, the learning curve's a little less steep when you're moving into WordPress. I went from doing HTML to hand coding to doing the content management systems. And you would think that it would instantly be easier, but it's when you're used to doing something a particular way, it's not necessarily that it's easier. It's just you got to learn something new. So it's definitely not hard. There's some things that I really like and I appreciate about WordPress. Joomla cannot compete with WordPress when it comes to SEO. It kills it. Yeah. So if that's something that's really important to you, and it is to most businesses, obviously, then WordPress wins it hands down. So
nice.
I've had to learn both. So the way I solved the problem is I quit building websites for people.
Yeah, there you go. You can't keep up. You do it on your own. Let's do something else.
We're always learning, and that's the key to it. There's something new every day. Now, we'll go on to, you've got two other plugins that offer WordPress. Is that all similar?
There's actually three main ones. So if you're most people, when they get started with blogging, video blogging is kind of the thing to do, and uploading a video to YouTube and then sending that video to your blog was the first plugin. So that was called Simple Video Press, and that's how I got started, I think 4 years ago. My first software I ever created, for the world. Well, for myself first, and then out to the world. And it was well, we'll talk about it maybe another time, but it was a fun experience, learning experience, a lot of issues. A couple sites went down and you panic and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But you learn, you get better at it. And so that was called Simple Video Press, like 4 years ago, and it's still going, still selling. And then I got into podcasting. So took the same principle. You make a podcast, you upload it to your podcast host, which connects it to iTunes and all that. So I thought, why don't we take the audio, embed it with our own audio player, add some nice buttons, email opt-in box, so you can kind of capture the email and do that automatically. And that's how simple the podcasting plugin, Simple Podcast Press, was born. And that one just took off. Like that one took off fast. Like podcasting, that was about 3 years ago, and podcasting was, I don't want to say just start. It wasn't just starting. It's been around for a while, but it was starting to pick up become more mainstream. So, and then it became, people liked the automation, but people liked the player itself because it was mobile friendly. It had an email opt-in box, which people were collecting email addresses. So it became really popular. It had some really cool features for podcasters. So that was the next one, Simple Podcast Press. And then there was the Blab plugin for Blab, but Blab's no longer available, so we don't sell that plugin anymore. But then the Simple Social Press was the other one, which is the one we just talked about, which takes Facebook Lives and puts them on your site. So I'm trying to keep that naming, that whole simple something press. So to keep the theme going. Yeah. So simple videos for YouTube, simple podcasts for your podcast. And then Simple Social was kind of representing the Facebook side of it.
I think that's a great branding strategy to keep that theme going. Stephen, I think Stephen has some screenshots and some things so we can actually show people Simple Social Press and how it works. So Stephen, if you want to toss me in the lobby.
I will for a moment. Right, so I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to go full screen so that you can actually talk against it, Annie, and step by step.
Okay, so it's basically, it's an automation tool. It takes your Facebook Lives to your WordPress site. And something I forgot to mention earlier, which is really important, it lets you grow your email list. And it puts an email opt-in box below every video, which is a great way to capture an email address where the focus is of the viewer. Someone's watching your video, and then you have a good offer for them to opt into your email list that shows up right below the video. So that's why it's going to help you grow your email list as well. Okay. Yeah, I mean, why is Live so important? I mean, a lot of people listening here know the value of Live, and especially Facebook Live, because Facebook loves Live, and it gives you the attention and the eyeballs in the beginning to get you the exposure when you go live, and then taking the replay and giving it more life on your website is just a great way of connecting with the audience, but also growing your email list, like I mentioned earlier, because you can't collect email lists on Facebook.
No, you can't. I mean, that's the drawback, isn't it? I mean, you don't get any real information you can take away.
Yeah, they want you to stay on Facebook. Facebook wants the viewer to watch it on Facebook and stay on Facebook. But if you get people on your website, there's less distractions. There's other content that you've created, but also there's an opportunity for them to connect and leave an email address and connect with you there, whether it's part of the Simple Social Press or whether you have an email opt-in box kind of on the top right of your website. Doesn't matter, but the fact that they're on your site is where you want them to consume your content, ideally. So the whole idea is it's automatically making a blog post with a video and comments, which is, to me, I've never had a blog post that had more than like 3 or 4 or 5 comments, maybe 5, when I was blogging early on. So the fact that you have a video and 10, 20, 30, 50, depending how many people are on your live stream, it just looks good from an SEO perspective as well. So Google sees this blog post that has people staying on it for a few minutes watching the video, all these blog comments, and it's all automatic. You're not doing anything beyond your Facebook Live. And
it's all in the setup, isn't it? If you get the categories right, then the automation will follow the path that you want it to.
Yeah.
And if you use the trigger, the keyword, to say, right, process this now, then it processes it when you've got the text right and you've sorted out the comments and deleted the bad comments and just leave the good comments in there. Because we know when we're live, we occasionally get comments that we wouldn't want to be publicized on our own WordPress blog. So you can edit everything before you push it across.
Yeah, and you can edit it after as well, too, if you wanted to. Like, you can delete comments from WordPress. You can disable comment. If you don't want comments for whatever reason, you don't want your comments imported, you can disable the comment importing, because some people don't want the comments there. So it is flexible. And the pricing is, it's, in my opinion, very inexpensive for what it's doing. It's $67 for a single license. We got a single website. It's $67 per year. And, well, I say per year. It's a little bit funny how it works, but basically it's an optional renewal. So if you don't renew, you're good.
Okay.
It still works forever. But it starts at $67. And to keep getting all the updates, you renew at a 25% discount automatically. So it works out to a few dollars a month, like $4 if I'm doing my math right. $4 or so a month.
And the $97 covers more websites. The $67 is one website, and then you're going on to, as you go up, you're getting more and more powerful and more.
Yeah, so if you've got a network of sites with, you're doing Facebook Live from this page, you want to go to this site and then this Facebook page to go to a different site, then each site needs a license. Yes, for like less than a price of 2, you get 3 licenses. So, yeah, and it's for 30-day money-back guarantee. If it's not doing what you want it to do, you don't like it, you can always get a refund.
And those the rates that were just up those are annual, correct?
These are annual, yeah. And if you decide, hey, I don't need all the updates anymore, you don't have to renew. Like the plugin will work for life. Right. But if you want the updates, which is always recommended with WordPress, it's always updates. If you're still using it, you can definitely keep updating. You get 25% discount the year after when you renew automatically. Yep. So yeah, it's a really good, huge time saver.
I've only had one client that didn't want comments, and for the same reason he didn't want comments, he also doesn't like to do live video. And they're land developers, and he said no matter how much you pay attention to environmentalism, no matter how much you communicate with your with the community that you're building in, you always have enemies when you're a land developer. and so I hate that for them. But I also believe that while that may be true, if you're transparent and you're open about responding to those negative comments, I always think that's better than just not having comments or just not doing live. But you can't always convince your client of those things, and as they say, the customer's always right. So
yeah, it's true.
We do what we can do.
Yeah, indeed. Just going. Sorry, go ahead. I keep doing this. I've got to stop doing this. Carry on with your point, Annie, and then I'll make mine.
I was going to say that. I mean, there's some people. There's always going to be haters out there. People are going to leave negative comments. Like you say, I think responding is definitely more powerful than trying to hide everything. It's going to happen no matter what. Someone's going to say something bad about you or your product or your service. You just have to respond to it. You can't please everybody. You got to please who you're trying to please. So.
Yeah, and everybody is not your customer. We always say that.
Exactly.
That's true.
I used to get upset. When I first started, I was like, "Oh, someone asked for a refund." I got someone asked for my first refund like 4 years ago. I was like devastated. I was like, "Why would you want a refund?" I was trying to not fight with, just trying to find out why they wanted it, and I took it too personally. And I thought, okay, they told me why. I thought, okay, well, that's not the user that I had in mind, and it's fine. Now it's like I know I can't please everybody. It's doing this. If you want to do that, then it's not for you. Maybe another product is for you. You can't please everybody. It's a very good point.
I mean, I take.
Go ahead, Stephen.
I take the similar approach to my software customers. When they send me an email with either a feature request or a bug, then the first line of every reply is thank you. And that gives me a chance to switch over to thank them for being a customer, and then I can tackle the problem.
Yeah.
So that I'm always in a reasonable mood when I'm replying, rather than saying, what are you asking for that for?
Yeah.
Sorry, Tina.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to say, one of the beautiful things about Hani's community, and we see this in the Belive community, and I see it in others as well, is when you have someone who's just, it's one thing when somebody has a negative comment, because, they're certainly entitled to their opinion. And so I don't want people to like attack someone because they said, well, this is too complicated for me. I hate it, and I'm going to use something else. Well, that's fair enough. But whenever you see kind of those trolls that are just there for whatever reason, they're your haters, you usually don't have to say a word. Your community takes care of that problem for you.
Oh, yeah. Indeed.
Yeah,
it's far more powerful than anything you could say.
Yeah.
So that's, I was to say that one of the, Stephen and I'll do this, and poor Stephen, if there's another female on the show, he just doesn't get a word in edgewise. So he just sits there politely, raises his head. But that, we were talking earlier about having private groups and having exclusive content that goes out to kind of those core users that you have, your heavier users like Stephen, who has 900 live shows, and so he can really stress that software for you. I know I'm teasing because people are like saying now that I'm the only person behind Stephen in the number of shows. And so I'm teasing him, but that's really where why it's so important, and where it comes to be so powerful is because you're building that community. When you have those sorts of things happen, when you have kind of the trolls that come on, your community is there for you. And if you don't make any efforts to build that community, then you're on your own. You have to handle it on your own.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I believe in the groups. Definitely the easiest way to kind of stay in touch without adding a lot of extra work for me, but I can get in touch. And some people message me personally on Facebook, through Messenger, and they kind of got connected with me through the group. And I think it's great. I think having a group, whatever product or service, or even just if you're trying to build a community of like-minded people, a Facebook group is the easiest way. And not plus the fact you can go live in that group is just only to that group is another way to connect with them. So it's just powerful, powerful use of Facebook Live.
It is, and we have the ability, Tina and I, to go live into Belivers, which is coming up. It's about 1,989 members now. So wow. The Belivers group will be 2,000 members tomorrow, which will be absolutely brilliant.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's from a standing start 3 months ago. It shows how many people are actually interested in using Belive. And long may that continue. In fact, we've heard rumors that people are actually getting 13 years license to use the system. So hopefully if they've got a roadmap which is 13 years ahead, all will be good. I mean, that's the thing. When you're developing products, do you have a roadmap that you work to? When people make feature requests, do you sort of respond straight away, or do you say, right, I'll put that into the map and I'll let you know when it's going to be done?
Yeah, I never promise dates. I made that mistake before early on. I said, oh yeah, we'll have it next month, and then next month, and then next month. It's hard to give a concrete date, but I use Trello kind of as my software to manage all my tasks, and everything goes in the incoming file. And if there's kind of requests that's over and over again, I kind of mark it. Okay, this person requested it, and I kind of bump it up the list. And then when I go every week, we kind of plan what's going to happen the next week, and we push things around. Sometimes I feel it's like, okay, this is a really big inconvenience, but the fix is very quick and really help. Like the ratio of like how much work it is versus how much kind of you're going to gain out of it. If that if that's a big ratio, then I'm gonna in a way that's small fix, big results, and I try to add it quickly. Just because, especially early on, like people know it's still kind of early in beta. It's been a few months, like 3 months now, 2-3 months for Repurpose especially, and I get a lot of features, a lot of requests, and I'm trying to keep people's experience positive. With Simple Social Press, it's been around for I think just over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a year and a bit since April. of last year, and the requests have slowed down. I mean, people are using it. Sales are coming in. People are using it. I forget how many, like, I would say 300-400 people, I would say, are using it. And, it does what it's said it can do, and people are happy with it. But with Repurpose, I find a lot more requests come in because it's still new and fresh. And,
and there's more moving pieces.
With the Repurpose.
Yeah, with the Repurpose, there's so much that you can do. There's more moving pieces. And I imagine for the developers working on this, it's not just your piece of software that you're dealing with. You're dealing with all of the services that you're pushing out to are pulling from, and they have all of their rules that are subject to change any second. And again, 3 more seconds from now. So yeah, how do you even keep up with, especially Facebook? YouTube doesn't seem to have as many changes, at least to me, as and I'm not a heavy user there, and I'm certainly not a developer on that end, but it seems like it doesn't have as many changes as often as Facebook does. And it's probably because it's not growing as fast as Facebook. Yeah.
I mean, from the, like at the API level where our software talks to Facebook, it doesn't change that often. Everything's revision, like there's a different revision for it. So if they make a change, they add something in the new, let's say version 2.1 of their API, they don't change 2.0. So when I connect to it, we connect on 2.0, I know they're not going to so far it hasn't broken anything. So if they add new features, they'll add it in the new revision, and then once we're ready, we test it, then we can start requesting using the version 2.1. So it should never happen where they change something and it breaks our connection. So they have revisions so that for that purpose.
Because I was curious. But go ahead, Stephen.
That is very interesting because twice in the last month, another piece of software which you are not connected to in any way, shape or form has broken down because of changes in the Facebook API. Do you get advance notice of these changes?
Not on what's new. I mean, I haven't seen it.
Right.
If they're gonna like kill version 1.7 or something, they'll say on this date, one API version 1.7 will no longer work. So they give you a few months notice, so that if you happen to have an old software that's using the 1.7, code to talk to it, then we need to upgrade it to call the latest version. But I mean, we're using kind of 1 or 2 below the latest version, so we're good for a while. But they give you a notice when they're going to kill a version of the API.
Yeah, it's just interesting that, and I think that's excellent that you don't have to worry every time they do something. From my perspective, I'm not a developer, so I don't know how the APIs and all that work from a developer's perspective. So in my mind, whenever they change something like, okay, well, now you can go live in groups. I'm like, well, what does that mean for the developers? Does that mean now something changes on their end? But it's not so much. So
yeah, usually if they do add something, then it should be backwards compatible. So they wouldn't change it where it no longer works unless they increment the version. So and then the new version, they may change the way it worked, but if they're adding something, they may just add it and then not break how it used to work. So far my experience has just been great with Facebook, with the plugin as well. Like the plugin, it's been around for 1.5 years, and with Repurpose, we've been, there hasn't been anything that's broken. I mean, we don't do anything crazy. Like one thing I've always used official API calls. We never try to scrape their site to get something, because that's just bound. That's not allowed, first of all. And if you do manage, something's going to change, and then your software is just not going to work anymore. So we always follow based on the documentation. Here's how you're supposed to use the way they intend you to use their API.
Yeah. That makes good sense. And that way you can't fall foul of Facebook. But I'm interested in one thing, just on Repurpose for a moment. That's the scaling. How is that being handled as more and more people use the system?
Yeah, that's kind of the challenges we've been having the past, not say challenges, but the good problem to have is we're almost 600 users right now in Repurpose. Some under a free trial, some under the paid. But we're just trying to be more, in the beginning, we just wanted to get the software out. And now we're just basically being more efficient on how many calls we'll make to Facebook, because they do have limits on how many times you can make requests to their API. So what we're doing is we're just kind of to make sure that when a trial user is there and the trial is over, we kind of handle that better. We just kind of take them off the queue and not make unnecessary calls, just to be more efficient with our calls to Facebook. But, you know, based on our calculation of how often we call Facebook, it's on a per user basis. They're pretty smart, actually. So they say, you know, it can make X number of calls per hour per user. So it's not like if I have 10 million users, still fine, because it's on a per Facebook user basis, which is good for us.
In terms of scaling, yeah.
Yeah, and we're just trying to make sure that we don't do anything unnecessary for accounts that are, you know, the trial's already expired. So there's no point in keep updating and checking for new videos. So small things like that, which we didn't expect to grow so fast with number of users. And it's just, you know, I knew it was going to happen, and now we're dealing with it. And we're doing it.
We love a success story, because last time we spoke to you, you were just celebrating 500 users.
500, yeah. Now we're close to 600. I was checking the other day, like 590 something, 595 just yesterday. So it's exciting, and it's all, to be honest, it's like I said, the community really helps. Like this a lot of word of mouth. I've done a few webinars and a few shows, but it's mostly people talking about it, which is good. And starting this month, I'm hoping to be a little more, I don't want to say aggressive. I want to do a little bit more of my job, which is to market the product out and, you know, try different marketing strategies. So hopefully that will help things go even faster. But I want to make sure we've got our scaling sorted out, which we're almost done this week. Hopefully we'll do the push. It's going to be transparent. We're trying not to have anything that's going to be obvious. Like we've only had like one small shutdown for a few hours, and we had to update the database and stuff. But so far, it's been, in my eyes, hopefully in your eyes too, relatively smooth.
In my eyes, it's dismissed faultless. I mean, the thing you're talking about has passed into history now. That happened a couple of months ago. Exactly. So no problems at all. And I'm processing 6 videos a week without any problems at all, and it's doing everything I want it to.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, I see everything, so I get nervous, but to be honest, I'm very comfortable. That's why I'm ready to go on and do a little bit of more of a outbound marketing, and get more people in the door, because you know, I feel comfortable that by the end of this week, it's going to be in better shape than it was last week.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, and apparently already you're seeing that Repurpose is kind of outpacing Simple Social Press.
Oh yeah.
That is, you know, for the simple reason that it's tied to WordPress, and not everyone uses WordPress. So yeah, I think any kind of marketing that you do, however small, is going to bring big returns for you, because the product's just phenomenal. The time saver and the headache, the bandwidth, which is a huge deal for a lot of people. I'm really fortunate in living somewhere where I have, you know, the same connection over here, because I live in a gigabit city, but not everybody has that. And so to not have your bandwidth being eat up while things are being downloaded and then uploaded is huge for people. So I think, you know, word of mouth, and Stephen and I are big mouths, so you got a good marketing team right here. On every repurposing show, we always mention repurpose.io, and we mention it to all our guests as well.
That's awesome. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure talking today, Annie. Now, the tradition is, Tina knows what the tradition is. First of all, Tina, over to you.
Well, I just want to take a moment and say happy 4th of July to everyone here in the States. I'm being totally lazy today. It's raining outside, so I have no intention of even going outside today. But we had a good weekend, and there's been lots of celebrations around the area. So happy 4th of July. And Hani, tell everyone where they can find Simple Social Press and Simple Podcast Press and all your tools.
I think the easiest way is to go to hanimourra.com. I just kind of have a list of all the products there and ways to connect with me if you want to say hi on Facebook. Just kind of all listed in one page, because it's so much easier than sending people 10 different links. So that's just Hani Mourra, HANIMOU. Yeah. Steven's got it right there. Yeah, you can learn more about me. We connect on Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, it's the easiest way.
Everywhere.
And we should say there are free trials for all of your products.
Actually, the Repurpose is the only one that has a free trial. The plugins have a money-back guarantee. So
a money-back guarantee.
Yeah,
so that is essentially a free trial.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like it, you can get your money back 100%. Yeah, within 30 days.
Awesome. Stephen?
All right. To everyone, my message is this. To everyone in the USA, I wish you a happy 4th of July. Enjoy the celebrations. I know it's 241 years ago that you gained independence from the British Empire, but today, where I'm in the UK and Annie and Tina are in the US, is proof that our two countries still get on, still talk to each other, and still collaborate. So from the UK, goodbye for now.
Stephen, do you want to tell people when your next show is, or
my next show?
You gotta have. You need to tell people where they can find all the other stuff you do.
All right, okay. If you go onto Facebook and you type in LVS17, or go onto YouTube and type in LVS17, you'll find me. That's the easiest way of doing it, because people misspell Stephen. You see, if you spell it with a PH, it doesn't work. So LVS17 is my. Okay,
and you can find me on Shang Live. So thank you all for joining us for this edition of Repurpose Your Content, Repurposing Your Content. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and we hope to see you then. Thank you both for joining me today, and have an awesome rest of the week.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And